Welcome to Long Distance Short. I'm Ellie, your host, and we're here because we're either in long distance relationships or curious about them. We're going to talk with real people and experts about the great things in long distance relationships and the tough things. Find inspiration and solutions to make your long distance relationships easier, break barriers in communication with faraway loved ones, and the burning relationship questions that interest you. So let's get right into today's episode and introduce you to our panel. Today our guests are girls from Ukraine, Liz and Luba. They've both experienced long-distance relationship, but what's more interesting is that they are both in international marriages. Hi girls, how are you doing?
Hey, just great. Thank you.
Hi, Ali. Hi, everyone.
So, would you tell us your stories, how you met, where are you living at the moment, or where your partner's from?
Hello, I am Luba. So I'm originally from Kiev, Ukraine, and my beloved husband is Polish. After trying to live in different places, we settled in Krakow, Poland. By the way, one amazing city to live in. Long story short, we met in a Danish art school in Germany. I came there from Ukraine, and for that moment, my future husband was working in Manchester, UK, and just arrived to this Danish school in Germany to meet me, I guess. That's how we met, and that's where our story starts.
Yes, hi, I'm Liz. And as Aline mentioned, I'm from Ukraine as well. My husband is Mexican, and currently we are located here in Mexico in a nice city called Leon in the state Guanajuato, which is in the center, in the very heart of Mexico. Soon we will be traveling back to Ukraine, and we will be staying in a nice city called Lviv, right on the border with Poland, and we will be neighbors with Luba very soon.
These are some great news, I have to say.
So, Luba, since you're living in Poland, I assume that you can speak Polish. That's right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I tried to study Polish, one of the most complicated languages in the world. I just visited some courses and then continued studying it here by myself mostly. But when you live in certain country, it's just so much easier to study certain language because it's around you, on TV, in shop, all around you. So we, with my husband, communicate in English, but his parents and relatives do not speak English, so I have to know some at least basic Polish to speak to them. And as he's my husband, I would like to speak with my new relatives. So yes, and it's quite a nice language to learn, I have to say.
And have you been ever struggling with learning Polish or speaking this language?
Of course. It is one complicated language, I have to say. But one thing saves me really a lot because this language is quite similar to Ukrainian. So when I don't know certain word, I'm trying to say it, like I try to say Ukrainian word in a Polish way. Sometimes it works, sometimes doesn't, but worth to try, no?
Do you remember any specific cases like that?
There were a lot of cases like this. Some words are really similar, like, I don't know, carrot. It's in Polish marchewka and in Ukrainian morkovka.
The same with Spanish sometimes. Okay, communication, comunicación. For example, yeah, transportation, well, transportación, I guess. Not even sure yet. Yeah, and in my case, since I'm in Mexico, yeah, I had to learn Spanish. The good thing that I like the language. Well, and Spanish is easier when you know already English. And anyway, you have no other way to survive in Mexico if you don't speak Spanish. Maybe in some resorts, people do speak English as well. But in the middle central Mexico, it's not that easy to express yourself without knowing Spanish. So with all the friends my husband has, we speak Spanish. even though some of them speak English, and his parents don't speak any English. And yeah, I had to learn it, but it was not super forced. I was not taking classes for long, maybe a few months, maximum half a year. And it was not very productive. The most productive way to learn a language is just communicate. Just force yourself to start speaking little by little, and you will get there.
Yeah, I totally understand you, because, for example, we live in Krakow, which is a touristic city. So when we're, for example, in the center, I know that people plus or minus speak English. So I always can use English to ask something, at least in the center. It makes you relaxed about the thing that you have to study this language. I mean, not have to, but it's nice to know it. So that's what I was doing to myself, just force myself to speak Polish. They always are so happy when you speak Polish, like, hey, how come you know this language? You're doing great. And I know I'm not doing great.
You're so self-critical. But do you speak Polish at home?
As I said, we speak English with my husband mostly,
Okay.
but even we created like our own language, which we use only in our home. It includes Polish, English, Ukrainian, a tiny drop of Spanish, and even Russian. I don't know why, seriously. So this is normal if, I can ask my husband to go to the shop to get some carrot, burachki, whatever, use some words from different languages. Oh my God, he really loved this word in Spanish, kaki. So when we need to buy kaki, it's like he definitely buys it. What about your husband, Lisa?
Well, he doesn't speak any Russian, neither Ukrainian. We still communicate in English just because it's easier for both of us, and we so got used to it. So even if I can say something in Spanish, I don't know why, but I would rather say it in English. I don't know, it just sounds more natural to us. And when I speak to him in Spanish, it feels like something like a foreign, I don't know, language. Even for him to answer to me in Spanish feels different. Like if you compare him answering to his family or friends, which is natural. Well, yeah, he knows a few words. Ukrainian, not so many, maybe like 5 in total. Russian, he bought a book and he was trying to learn it, and I was trying to help him. But yes, I'm a really bad teacher.
No, but it's interesting, actually, as you moved to Lvov, maybe he was thinking about, studying some Ukrainian.
Yeah, just to say tak instead of da, he can, and ask for some food. Yeah, so the basic things to survive.
Okay, yes, good enough for the start.
Well, do you think there are any barriers in your relationship because you and your partner you just do not use your mother tongue?
No, you see, I guess for Liz and her husband, it's the same as for us. English is a foreign language, so in our marriage. So sometimes it's good thing that we speak English because. For example, I know myself, I'm quite a talkative person. So when I have to speak English, I have to, translate some words in my mind, and it requires time. So maybe I speak, less and slower, which helps, sometimes during some conversations.
Yes, I agree with Luba that there are some benefits in speaking English. As you know, neither for me nor for my husband, English is the mother tongue. So yeah, I'm not super talkative, but I can definitely say that when we argue, English is a barrier to say less, to threaten less. Yes, because you just feel very angry and you start mumbling something in your own language, but he cannot understand that, so it's a good thing. So he cannot get upset of what you say because you cannot express yourself as bright as you can in your own language. So yeah, English is then is definitely beneficial in this case.
Do you argue also in a mixture of languages?
Yes, it's quite funny. Of course, we have the same situation as Liz, like that when somebody's angry, usually, we just cannot stop ourselves and argue. I mean, saying some not nice words and we curse in our mother tongue. But I remember our first argue when I was so angry that I couldn't remember any words, just couldn't, I just couldn't translate what I wanted to say. And, with this angry face, I went to my laptop, wrote a message, translated it in Google Translator. And my husband is quite tall, so I had to take a chair, stand on the chair and show him the message, like with very angry face, read it, And while he was reading it, he started to laugh because like the whole thing looked so just hilarious, me really small, standing on this chair with this laptop, like, oh my God, Luba, what are you doing? Seriously.
Very persuasive.
Yeah, so this argue, even, there was no angry feelings after that because it's just, I guess impossible. But, in time, we just started to use, like, for example, my husband likes courses in Ukrainian. It's just because they sound funny for him. And the same with me, the same thing in Polish. Plus, it's easier to swear in another language because you don't feel how hard the word is. For example, when you use it in your native language, how horrible this word is. And I personally feel a tiny bit shy to use it like all the time. But when it's in another language, foreign language for you, it's kind of easier to use these words.
And by the way, does your partner try to kind of learn Ukrainian maybe? How is that going?
Well, he's trying, not so fast, and it's difficult because the alphabet is different. So Cyrillic for him is really complex, and he doesn't understand why R looks like Ya in Cyrillic, why P is R. Why this similar but differently pronounced letters are just the way they are. It is a mess for them, for Mexicans, well, for all foreigners, I guess. And he knows a few words. He can say, I'm unemployed. He can say that he is hungry. He can ask how to get to some place. To the left, to the right, he understands. And where you're welcome. Glad I was happy to meet you. How are you doing? All this like very, very basic stuff. But sometimes if he gets an answer that he doesn't understand, the conversation stops. So it's very limited. But he's making an effort. That's what I appreciate, because my parents don't speak Spanish, neither English. So that even this a few phrases that he learned will be anyway helpful when we come to Ukraine.
I know that my parents just dream about, like, I'm speaking about my mother. She would love my husband to, study Ukrainian perfectly so she could speak to him in private. And I think that's one of the reasons why he actually does not study, not to have this private conversation, Just also, like, going back to this conversation with relatives, my husband had just a genius conversation with my grandmother. Just, they kind of liked each other immediately. And they used only one word, which meant good. It's like, so he could just come, oh, hello, good? And she's like, good. She's like, good. And they really were trying to do it, different voices, different intonation, and they could do it for 20 minutes, half an hour. I could go somewhere, like, just could prepare some food, and I could come back to the same place and, they would still be, ha, 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 good, good. It's like amazing.
So lovely.
Yes. And
Intonation is key.
yes, I agree. That was just the nicest thing, really.
And by the way, do you think that it's worth insisting that your partner learn your native language, not just in your cases, but kind of in general?
Well, I would not say it's really necessary, but in my opinion, it depends a lot of the country you live in. So if we don't live in Ukraine, I don't think it's necessary for him to learn Ukrainian. Well, it's nice if he has time, if it's not that difficult for him to do, then yeah, for sure, you're super welcome. My parents would be happy, same as Luba's grandma. My grannies would be super happy because as people of previous generations, USSR generations, they have never been traveling. They didn't learn any foreign languages, and I don't think they will. So yet for sure they would want to know my husband better, and the only way to do it is if he learns Ukrainian or Russian, which are similar. And but I don't think this is a good reason to force him to learn a language, because it takes years, really years, to learn Russian or Ukrainian for people whose alphabet is not Cyrillic or who are not Slavic. So the languages are too different. I think if we live in let's say Portugal, we would rather learn Portuguese, and he would rather learn Portuguese than Ukrainian. He would put more effort because this is directly related to the place you live in, to the people you communicate daily with, and your work, of course.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because it depends on the place you live in. If you live in Ukraine, that it makes sense, and also depends on your plans, I guess. So here I'm totally with you. We also thought about it because just for my husband, yeah, it's fun to learn this language, but what should he do with it afterwards? Just to speak to my relatives, this is nice enough, but we can survive without
You can translate.
yeah, I always can
Easy.
translate, so I think it's not a problem, actually. No, just it doesn't make any sense to look for the problem where there is no problem.
So when your parents or your relatives who don't speak Polish or English, when they communicate with your husband, how do you manage that? Like, are you the only one who could translate, or do they use a vocabulary? I mean, a Google Translator or something alike?
Yeah, it depends where do they communicate. When we speak in real life, of course, I translate everything, and that was quite funny at the very beginning when I didn't speak Polish, because now I can directly translate from Polish to Ukrainian or to English if it's necessary. But going back to at the very beginning of our relationships, when our parents got to meet each other, that was quite a mess, because we were sitting at the same table, and for example, I don't know, my husband's father could tell a joke. Then he laughed, and then my husband had to tell me a joke in English. Then I laughed because it was funny, and then I had to translate it to my parents, and then they laughed. So that was quite a stupid conversation. We were sitting in this restaurant, and there was this, we have this game, Broken Radio. Each sentence had to be translated in 3 languages, this way and another. So that was quite weird. So I'm really happy that I can translate directly now.
Yeah, in my family, the only one who speaks English is my sister and her boyfriend. So I guess it will be a little easier than in your situation, because at least there is one or even 2 more people who can help me with the translation when my boyfriend comes with me to Ukraine. With my friends will be easier, I suppose, because my friends, I think all of them, almost all of them, speak English. If not perfectly, at least they can express themselves, the basic things. So it's already some communication, and I think it will simplify his life a little, because at least there are going to be people who would understand him, and he can be friends with. So when you go to new country and you don't speak the language of the country, and your wife is the only person who could help you, who could translate to you, is very difficult. But if you have people around who also speak English, like my friends, I hope that it will make his life easier in many situations. Like, of course, it will not help him in the supermarket or in a mall, but at least he will not be silently sitting when we're all having fun.
Yeah, I totally with you on this, because we have some experience with my husband, because we lived for some time in Kiev, and I had this fear that I will be the only person around who can communicate with him. But it turned out to be okay, because mostly young people speak English, and there is nothing bad with it.
Okay. And before you moved to Krakow, had you been living apart from each other?
Yeah, so going back to the very beginning of our relationship, okay, we both, got a scholarship in this Danish school, and it was a 5 month courses, but I could stay only for 3 months due to my visa. And when my visa ended and I had to go home, of course, it was a real heartbreaking moment for me. And I had no idea if this relationship will survive. But if you both sincerely want to make it work, no borders can stop you. So after that, when I went back to Ukraine, I had to stay there for 3 months. And our secret, I guess, is everyday Skype. Here are no jokes, everyday Skype with no exceptions. Seriously, it just makes it work. I think it doesn't matter how tired you both are. It will be for a few hours, or it will be a 5 minute Skype. You just have to do it every day. Seriously, don't be lazy. It's just was something new for me, because to tell you the truth, I never thought that I will get a boyfriend from a different country and then would be happy enough to marry him. It's just, the way it works, I guess. If you start to live your life in your country without this person, you feel comfortable. You start to hesitate. You start to think, do you need this stuff? Do you need this person? Maybe you feel comfortable with your life. And when there is a person, with whom you can get in touch, who knows everything about your life, it makes you both closer. It makes you feel like you live together all these moments, and this is very important, because once you start to enjoy your life by yourself and start hiding things, just maybe you think, you don't hide it, you just think, maybe he doesn't need to know that I had a great time over here, or like, I don't know, enjoyed this theater play or something. No, in our case, we knew every little detail about each other. And personally for me, I felt like, I really live with this person. I know what's going on in his life. I felt like living in Krakow, and he felt like living in Kiev, because of all the stories, this everyday Skype. What about you, Liz? Did you have an experience like this?
Yeah, I did. Not for long, for only 2 months, when I went back to Ukraine to visit my family and friends, and also for work. And yes, the difficulty was that the time difference, the time zones, because it's 8 hours, or in winter it's 9 hour difference. So it's not easy to find an hour which is suitable for him and for me at the same time. It was usually either too early for him or too late for him, or the opposite for me. because of the different schedules of work or different time zones. But we survived. Yeah, I agree that the communication is key, and what I recommend that you keep your partner constantly involved in your life, share everything you do, who you went out with, what movie you saw, etc. So yeah, in this situation and in cases like this, your partner feels more involved in your life. He may feel like a part of it. Same for you. When you hear and you know what your partner does, you feel secure. You know that he's always like, you almost feel that he's always around. So yeah, was difficult for both of us.
Yeah, I also remember that even with all this Skyping and knowing everything about each other, when you meet in real life, we needed at least a couple of days to just get used to each other, because it's so weird. You so get used to this little picture in your laptop, and suddenly there is a real human being standing next to you. This is quite interesting. And also the second thing I have to say here, that it's totally, all the credits go to my husband, because he used any possibility to be together in a real life. Though we had more experience in this long distance relationships, we kind of, try to spend as much time together as possible. I mean, in real life. For example, he took a plane to Kiev as soon as he could. He stayed as long as he could. When he left, again, it was, a lot of Skyping. Then he kind of created this visa for me and took me for 1 month to one place, another place. We just, tried to make it work, whatever. It doesn't matter the place, doesn't matter the time, just to spend a tiny bit, just some I don't know, few days together. But I have to say that it also helped that time to time we just needed to break this wonderful Skype relationship and meet in real life, because also in Skype you do not see routine. Why I was telling about the school, because everything was arranged over there. And when you have to live with a person in real life, cook together, clean up places together, just create what to do today, it's also at the very beginning quite an effort. But if it goes fine, then you feel it's your person. And on the other hand, I think that both sides always have to try to make it work, try to make an effort, because it just doesn't go easy. I thought that if two persons click, it just goes smooth from the very beginning, but it doesn't. Somebody has get a person with, like, you always get a person with certain habits, and you have to see these habits in regular life, before saying yes next to the altar.
Yeah, habits in action.
Yes. So the Skype is not enough. I think that the best thing is just to try to spend as much time as possible in real life as well.
Yes, and I just remembered that when we were apart from each other, when we had distance relationships for those 2 months, I remember one of us had to go to bed very late, and the other had to wake up very early, and the vice versa. So we were constantly doing these things, like I go to bed at 2 a.m., which is late for me. He had to start waking up at 6 or 5 a.m. and we were doing it for 2 months. So it was in a way difficult, but it helped us a lot. And I agree with Luba that both parties need to put a lot of effort to make it work.
So, summing up, what advice would you give for international couples? Like something really striking, the most important things to do.
My advice would be to don't pay attention to the language you speak, because this is not the only thing that make people connected or disconnected. the language is just a source of communication, but I know many stories when a couple speaks 5 languages at the same time and they don't click, they don't match, and or you speak one language and you don't match, and at the same time you can speak a foreign language such as English in our case, and you can understand each other perfectly without knowing some particular words. So it really depends on people and the effort you put in.
Okay. I would give this advice. I mean, I would say that you should not be afraid of these international relationships, because if you feel that it's your person, then fight for it.
Thank you so much, girls. It was a real pleasure to talk to you, and it's great knowledge that I think not only me, but everybody can get. So I hope all the international couples that strive to be together, they will get what they want. And of course, I wish you good luck and hope that everything will go well, of course. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for today's episode of Long Distance Short. If you enjoyed it, let us know. Subscribe and tune in each month for more advice and inspiration for long-distance relationship success. If you didn't like the episode, write us at info@givethebasketsoverseas.com and tell us why. And if you have ideas and questions for an episode, tell us about them. We just might hear your question answered or even end up on a panel with us. See you next time, and we'll keep exploring how to make long distance short.